live in a world where we have to grow up. People in this business fall by the wayside because we forget that all of us ultimately answer to people.
Exiting ESPN, exiting First Take quite abruptly, one might say. Last night, Austin Karp of Sports Business Journal reported that Molly Qerim was exiting at the end of the year, but it turns out she is exiting effective immediately.
Our friend Molly Qerim was reaping. However, Molly announced last night she will be departing from ESPN. She's hosted First Take for 10 years and elevated the show with her grace, her expertise, incomparable kindness. She's been an enormous part of our success for a decade. Not only did she keep me and many others in line, she did it with dignity, class, and kindness, to say the least.
Welcome back. The internet is on fire right now. Stephen A. Smith just dropped some heavy hints about why his longtime First Take co-host, Molly Qerim, suddenly walked away from ESPN, and the whispers circling around tell a story way messier than anyone thought. Here's the deal. This exit wasn't just shocking, it was downright seismic. On September 16, 2025, the sports media world was rocked when Molly Qerim announced she was leaving ESPN after nearly 2 decades. For 10 of those years, she held it down as the face and steady moderator of First Take. But then,
we'll miss her and wish her every blessing on her future. I personally am grateful to her for her friendship, and I will miss spending every weekday morning with her right by my side.
boom, she was gone. Fans, colleagues, even Stephen A. himself looked blindsided, like they never saw it coming. And here's what makes it even crazier, the way it all unfolded. On Monday, September 15th, Molly was on First Take like nothing was wrong, calmly moderating the heated debates like the pro she's always been. By the next morning, she wasn't just taking a short break, she wasn't on a little hiatus, she was completely out. Just like that, after 19 years of calling ESPN home, she walked away overnight. At first, the Sports Business Journal tried to soften the blow, reporting she'd leave at the end of the year, which sounded like a standard farewell. But then the plot twisted hard. Molly jumped on Instagram and dropped a statement that flipped everything upside down. Her post started with the eye-opening words, "The news came out earlier than I intended." That one line screamed that something backstage had exploded. This wasn't the neat, polished goodbye that ESPN usually rolls out for their big names.
Last night, she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. And to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement. Molly is a friend. Molly is a co-worker. Molly is somebody that I have leaned on many occasions in the past, as she has done when it comes to me.
No highlight reels, no tear-filled tributes, just an abrupt, mysterious exit. And that left everybody wondering what really went down behind those ESPN doors. This wasn't some quiet, graceful send-off. This was chaos in real time. Molly Qerim's resignation hit like a lightning bolt, and the fallout was immediate. By Tuesday morning, First Take was on air without its longtime host, and viewers were hit with a shocking image. Stephen A. Smith opening the show solo, visibly shaken, his voice cracking as he delivered what came off like a heartfelt but strangely cryptic farewell. He told the audience that Molly would be missed, that he wished her the best, and that she had projects ahead of her. Sweet, right? On the surface, it sounded like a genuine goodbye. But if you really listen, the cracks show. Stephen kept repeating that she announced last night, making it sound like he had been blindsided just like the rest of us. This wasn't some farewell tour carefully cooked up for months. It was raw, it was sudden, and it left him scrambling. But the real twist came later that same day on his SiriusXM podcast, The Stephen A. Smith Show. That's when Stephen A. went from professional to mysterious. He admitted point blank that there was more to the story, though he stressed it wasn't his place to reveal it. Boom! Instant speculation frenzy. Let's be clear, Stephen A. knows something major. His choice to tease the truth without saying it outright sent fans into overdrive, dissecting every word, every pause, every bit of body language. He didn't spill the tea, but he sure made sure we knew the pot was boiling.
Molly was going through a contract negotiation, obviously, and that was not going well, obviously, because Molly wasn't getting what she wanted. What did Molly want? Molly wanted to do other things at the network, which included hosting her own show. Let me land on my feet within the network, still be at the worldwide leader, and do my thing. Now, That was.
And here's the kicker, the timing. Stephen A. kept hammering on how abrupt Molly's exit was, a point that ESPN's own president of content, Burke Magnus, later confirmed. Magnus flat out admitted the only thing shocking was the timing. He said Molly's statement was pushed out early because of a leak, and once it hit the press, ESPN lost control of the story completely. That means this wasn't the polished exit ESPN usually stages. It was messy, rushed, and way off script. To really understand why this is rocking the industry, you've got to know what Molly brought to the table. She joined ESPN way back in 2006, starting on the digital side before becoming the permanent moderator of First Take in 2015. For 10 years, she kept the show balanced, polished, and at the top of ESPN's food chain. She wasn't just a host, she was the backbone of First Take, the glue that held the fiery debates together. That's why her vanishing act has left such a giant hole. The numbers don't lie. Molly Qerim wasn't just a moderator. She was the engine behind First Take's domination. Under her watch, the show rose to become ESPN's highest-rated studio program, pulling in more than 500,000 viewers every single episode. By 2024, Sports Business Journal had even stamped it as one of the 25 best current studio shows in the game. And in 2023, the numbers hit historic highs. First Take had its most watched year ever, while its clips racked up a jaw-dropping 250 million views on YouTube. But Molly's role went way deeper than stats and ratings. She wasn't just the traffic cop keeping debates on track. She was the balance. While Stephen A. brought fire and theatrics, Molly countered with poise, precision, and credibility. She fact-checked on the fly, kept conversations inclusive, and proved time after time that women could stand tall in a space dominated by loud male voices. Fans and critics alike credited her for making First Take feel sharper, smarter, and more respected. Her journey at ESPN read like a blueprint for success. Starting in 2006 as a digital contributor, she hustled her way through football coverage, NFL events, and by 2008, she already had an Emmy in her hands for her fantasy football now work. From there, she became ESPN's secret weapon, a host who could thrive under pressure, grill athletes and coaches with tough but fair questions, and keep live debates from spiraling into chaos. And then there was the chemistry. For 10 years, Molly and Stephen A. became a legendary duo in sports media circles. He'd go off with his trademark explosions, and she'd rein him back in, redirecting the energy and hitting him with that measured checkmate smile. She knew when to challenge him, when to lighten the mood, and when to throw in just enough levity to keep the show entertaining without ever losing control. Their rhythm was unmatched, and it made First Take must-see TV. That's why her exit landed like a sucker punch. No warning signs, no whispers of tension, no slow fade from the spotlight. If anything, First Take was peaking, ratings climbing, clips going viral, everything firing on all cylinders. Then, out of nowhere, Molly vanished. One day, she was on screen. The next day, she was gone. All that remained were cryptic Instagram posts and Stephen A.'s vague, carefully worded statements. ESPN made it official fast. She wouldn't return for another episode, scrapping the supposed end-of-year farewell and speeding her exit into an immediate cutoff. The timing of Molly Qerim's exit set off alarms everywhere. First Take was peaking, ratings climbing, cultural buzz stronger than ever, and then out of nowhere, one of its anchors vanished with zero warning. For a network like ESPN, known for carefully choreographed talent moves and smooth transitions, this was a total breakdown of the playbook. Something behind the curtain had snapped, and it wasn't just routine business. One fact became impossible to ignore. This wasn't some neat contract disagreement or a friendly mutual parting. Something big imploded during negotiations. Something so serious that a polished pro like Molly decided she'd rather walk away immediately than ride out the final months of her deal. That kind of move screams that the tension wasn't just simmering, it had boiled over. And trust. It wasn't just about leaving a TV show. What was happening behind the cameras was way messier. This was about money, power, and a negotiation battle that spiraled completely out of control. Industry insiders are whispering that this saga goes far beyond dollars. It's about status, leverage, and respect inside one of the biggest sports networks on the planet. And still, money was front and center in the drama. To see why, you have to understand the ESPN pay scale that sparked it all. In 2024, Stephen A. Smith locked down a monster contract extension, reportedly north of $100 million over 5 years, cementing him as one of the highest paid personalities in all of sports media. Meanwhile, reports suggest Molly was taking home about $500,000 a year. Do the math. That's a mind-blowing 40-to-1 pay gap between the two faces of ESPN's crown jewel morning show. That wasn't just a gap, it was a canyon. Sources say this massive imbalance became one of the biggest pressure points in Molly's negotiations. After all, she wasn't just a background player, she was part of the show's DNA. Yet when the numbers hit the table, the disparity was undeniable. Fans have already been asking, how could a network allow such a lopsided setup for its top duo? Here's where things get even juicier. Former ESPN insider Marcellus Wiley stepped in with some explosive commentary. Wiley, who worked at the network from 2007 to 2018 and watched Molly climb the ranks, has been one of the loudest voices unpacking the real story. His insights have cracked this wide open, suggesting what really unfolded behind those ESPN doors might be way darker and way more personal than just dollars and cents. According to Marcellus Wiley, Molly wasn't just chasing a bigger paycheck to keep moderating First Take, she wanted more. Real career growth, her own platform, opportunities that reflected nearly 20 years of loyalty and a decade of holding down one of the toughest jobs in sports TV. She wanted respect to match her resume. And ESPN? Word is, they shot down almost everything she asked for. That rejection stings even harder when you look at Molly's track record. She was the one steering debates through the messiest, most heated sports controversies of the last decade. From LeBron's dramatic team switches to the NFL's stormy battles over player protests. She kept arguments passionate but productive, never letting the table dissolve into chaos. That skill set made her irreplaceable, or at least it should have. But Wiley takes it further. And this is where his theory gets explosive. He claims Stephen A. Smith's power inside ESPN may have tilted the scales during those negotiations. According to Wiley, Stephen A. isn't just the star of First Take. He's become the network's unofficial kingmaker with the power to lift people up or shut them down depending on who he decides to back. And here's the kicker. Wiley suggests that when Molly made her move, Stephen A. didn't use that influence to push for her advancement. Instead, she was left hanging. Evidence backs this up too. Multiple reports show Stephen A.'s 2024 mega deal gave him significant pull over the show's direction, from casting choices to creative calls. There are documented cases where his voice influenced who got hired, who got fired, and who stayed in ESPN's inner circle. This kind of setup isn't new in the entertainment world. When a network pours hundreds of millions into one star, that star often picks up shadow power far beyond their job title. They become untouchable, a force whose preferences quietly shape careers. Stephen A.'s $100 million deal and his status as ESPN's centerpiece gave him exactly that kind of leverage. So if Wiley's theory holds weight, Stephen A. had the power to elevate Molly or to leave her fighting uphill. And apparently, she wasn't on his chosen list. That selective support raises the real question. What exactly determines who Stephen A. blesses with his backing and who he leaves in the cold? The timing of Molly's failed negotiations only makes that question louder. The whispers that something bigger was brewing behind the scenes only grew louder when ESPN exec Burke Magnus weighed in. He confirmed that the original plan was simple. Molly Qerim would step back from First Take at the end of the year, then transition into brand new roles across ESPN. The idea was to give her space for career growth, her own shows, major assignments, and the kind of opportunity she had earned after nearly 2 decades of grinding. It sounded perfect on paper, the kind of graceful transition you'd expect for a seasoned star. But somewhere deep in those final negotiations, that vision blew up completely. Instead of opening doors, ESPN's offer allegedly boxed Molly into a cold, take it or leave it corner. And when those were the only options, she chose to walk away immediately. No countdown, no drawn-out farewell tour. That's what makes the timing so wild. Why would a long-term plan for growth suddenly collapse into a resignation overnight? Why couldn't Molly just finish the year and exit on the original timeline? According to insiders, the answer wasn't just about money, it was about trust. Somewhere along the way, Molly felt like ESPN stopped valuing her voice, her contributions, and her role in shaping the show's success. And when trust evaporates, no contract can fix that. Behind the scenes, sources told outlets that Molly had been quietly frustrated for years. She elevated First Take during its biggest cultural moments, and she carried the weight of female representation in a space where women rarely get that kind of visibility. Yet when it came time to negotiate, she didn't feel that recognition reflected back at her. That sting cut even deeper when compared to the paychecks and perks handed out to other top ESPN talent. The contrast was glaring. Stephen A. raked in 9 figures, other personalities got major projects and platforms, but Molly, despite being the steady hand keeping ESPN's flagship show together, was offered scraps in comparison. To her, it was more than a pay issue. It was proof that the network didn't respect her role the way they claimed publicly, and that's what insiders say pushed her from "let's finish the year" into "I'm done right now." And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the loop with all the latest tea. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll catch you in the next video.